Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
Welcome to another episode of Love Your Sales. I am joined by Adrianna Munoz. She is a nurse turned speaker that helps healthcare professionals navigate conflict so they can focus on what matters most, patient care and each other. And I absolutely love that because, well, we know that sometimes communication is one of the most important things, to keeping patients happy, calm, and, collective, especially if it's in a heightened emotional state when things might not be going right. I'm excited to get into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity to chat here with you. It's been a twisty road to get here, like I'm sure many people you've talked to. And for you, I know when we met last as well. So I'm just, delighted to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about your journey? Because I'll tell you that a lot of nurses, people who are in the healthcare industry that I have spoken with, that I have met, are often tight-lipped about their industry, about what goes on in the back office of the healthcare industry. So I'd love to hear more about how you started and that journey of where you are now, and then kind of get into the brass tacks of everything.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. I have been a registered nurse since 2014, and I started out my career in the neonatal ICU, and this was in a hospital in Chicago. I did that for about 2 years, and I jumped ship to go to work in the ER because I realized that I really missed working with people. I got into nursing because I love people. And I just didn't get the interactions that I wanted. And I felt kind of pigeonholed being in such a niche but beautiful type of nursing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I made this jump into the ER and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so out of my depth. I had so much to learn. I really did not have footing in that arena at all. And I learned very quickly in one critical incident, actually, where a patient was really heightened, really, really upset about with me, even though it was something I had no control over. And so I ran out of the closet and I ran out of the room and I hid in a closet and I cried. And for me, that was like my pivotal moment where I was sitting in the closet and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, have I avoided conflict my whole life? Am I a people pleaser? Oh my gosh. And I'm sitting in the closet and I look down, I'm like, wow, this is really disgusting. I should probably get off the floor. And I got off the floor and I went back to the room with the patient. I stuck up for myself and I made it my mission. I'm like, I never want to feel like that again. And as I found my footing in the ER, I started navigating those conversations very differently, where I felt more comfortable being assertive, sticking up for myself. And then I started precepting new grads. I was a mentor. I was taking on more leadership roles. When I got my master's degree, I had the opportunity to step into project management where I was pulling from these communication skills that just helped me level up every time I had a new challenge. And I found that my story is not very unique. There are so many Facebook nursing groups where people are posting anonymously. I'm crying in the bathroom every shift. I hate my coworkers. The patients are so mean. I don't know what to do. And this is just something that healthcare needs to be talking about. And I think I might have a different perspective because I've become a safe space for a lot of my coworkers because I still work in the ER. I step back from leadership and people will come to me and ask for help troubleshooting certain things. So I think maybe I've become a trusted resource, but this is something healthcare needs to be talking about because people are leaving the industry because
Hmm.
they don't know how to talk to each other. And it does always affect patient care. So that's how I got to where I am. It's just truly for a love of people. And I almost imagine my job as a speaker and workshop facilitator, nursing just on a bigger scale with the audience that I'm connecting with.
Right. That's amazing. And as you're talking, so I go back to when I was pregnant. I was probably, well, I would say that most women probably at some point or another have, maybe not. I don't know. It was me. I'm just gonna say me. I was a bear. Like every time, and I was in the ER constantly. I was
Mm.
what do they, the old pregnant women, geriatric.
Oh, did they geriatric? God, I
Geriatric.
hate that term. I'm
They called me a
sorry.
geriatric pregnant woman because I was like I was 38, right? Yeah, I was 38. So, me 38 years old and I'm pregnant and my doctor warned me. She's like, this is going to be hard on your body. And I'm like, yeah, great. Like, and more women are having babies at an older age, but
Right.
I had no idea how hard it was going to be on my body. Like I was in the ER constantly. I became tachycardic. So I was sitting in the ER one day. My heart rate is through, like it's sitting just normally at 100 beats per minute. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I remember that they came in and I'm at Freighter, which is a training, hospital. They teach, and they came in and they're like, "Hey, we have this new way of doing blood work with an ultrasound or whatever to find that." And they're like, "This is a training person." And I'm all about like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" It was horrific.
Mm.
It was absolutely horrific. The pain because they like missed they missed the vein. And I didn't, and again, this is where the sometimes the people pleaser, like I should have just said, "Look, I'm pregnant. I don't feel good. Leave me alone. Go do the training on somebody else. I'm
Yeah.
not in the mood for this." So, I mean, it got to the point where I said, "Pull it out. Stop. Stop." And they're like, "Just one more second." And I'm like, "Give me my arm," which set off, the crying hysterically, and then me getting up and grabbing my bag. And I'm like, "I'm leaving." And a nurse walking, and I'm thinking to myself, God, I was so horrible after that event to these nurses. They're like following me down the hallway, like, "Ma'am, just get back in the bed." And I'm going, "Get away from me." Like, but you don't realize, like, in the moment, like, how horrible you're treating those people because you yourself are in an like state, and so you don't mean to do it. So you have to go back to like the nurses are dealing with that. That's just one person. Now think of the 50 other people who are filled in this, especially when you're talking about like Freighter Hospital, which is the huge, again, I'm in Milwaukee. This is a huge, gigantic, this is our trauma center for
Mhm.
Milwaukee. Um, you just don't realize that they're dealing with not just one of me, they're dealing with hundreds of people who are coming through every day
Mm.
in that state, potentially in that state. And it's like, wow, you have to have a really thick skin.
To start, I am sorry that you had that
Oh no.
experience with it sounds like it was an ultrasound IV and training for that can be tricky and it is painful. So I am sorry genuinely because I've been there where people are bouncing around trying to find my veins. They're huge. My veins are huge. And I was like, but then also people have to learn somewhere. But regardless, patient's voice is one of the most important.
Well, right. And I said yes. And that was my mistake of like, well, I'm already uncomfortable because I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, I don't mind. Like, I know that you have to train. I made the mistake of going, yeah, why not? And then I was like, wait, no, maybe I shouldn't have said yes.
Well, we see people on the worst days of their life, and they could be coming in for anything, but they're scared enough to leave their home, find a way to the ER, sit in a waiting room, wait in an uncomfortable area, listen to bells being beeping, hear people screaming. People are nervous enough to show up and see us, and I wish that like I've been in the ER for a long time and I've worked in a lot of ERs like what you're describing, huge medical centers. We have high volume, just everything walks through the front door.
Right.
Every type of person. But everybody has a story and people are coming to us feeling so emotionally agitated for whatever reason. Nobody wants to be in the ER. I didn't know that when I started nursing. It like blew my mind, but like nobody wants to be there, and learning how to de-escalate people very quickly and
Right.
learning how to navigate those conversations. And in a way, to bring this full circle, it's almost like selling people, getting them involved in their care, where it's kind of pivoting it to a point of empowerment where it's saying, sure, Leighann, you don't have to stay. I get it. I get it. I'm right there with you. This is painful. What can we do to make sure this is a win for you because you care enough to come in? And so, how do you shape those conversations to make it collaborative, to make the person that's on the receiving end of it feel empowered, to put them in the driver's seat? And these conversations work not just in conflict. That's just my special niche in the world.
So let's talk about that. So because, and again, at this point for me, I had checked out. There's the door. Now, like had somebody like you during that, I was getting agitated. I was starting to, you know, my emotions were getting even higher. It was getting more and more elevated. Had somebody like you come in and gone, okay, I can see that you're getting upset. I can see, how do you train nurses? How do you help them identify those situations and then kind of help bring them down? Help them empower that person to understand that you did come here for something, and I'm not going to continue. I want to hear this in your words.
That is such a great question. It starts out with, and this is the first workshop I do in any series. This is the opening part of my keynote. Let's find common ground. Let's find common ground. I could find common ground with anybody. And if it's a patient, it's usually going to sound something like, I know you care enough to be here, and I want to make sure that I take care of you. We both care about your health. So let's establish common ground to make sure that we're conversing about something and we have some sort of shared space, because humans are not pack animals, but we do want to feel included. It's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need, and then people are coming to healthcare for very base physiological needs like breathing, blood flow. If you are pregnant, you have a baby you care about. And in healthcare, I care about your health. That's why I'm there. That's what we both share about. So when I am training somebody, I will say, at least you always share that in common with somebody. They
Mhm.
could be showing up and they could be a total jerk. It doesn't mean that you need to tolerate it, but as a human being, at least you care about the same thing. And then recognizing when we in healthcare feel really agitated and what our triggers are, because it looks different. Healthcare workers have a lot of stuff going on in their head too. People are going through divorces, their kids are sick. I mean, when I was in management, I heard some crazy stuff that people were going through, and so it's having empathy for ourselves is huge. So if you're feeling agitated, take a deep breath. There's always time. If you really have to tap out of the situation, step away, but maintaining your cool is always gonna win out. So it's let's understand our shared foundation. Let's do our best to maintain our own psychological safety and have grace with ourselves. And then once we have that established, we could extend it to the patient that we're talking to. Or in my case, I train for a lot of interpersonal conflict on the team. So usually people let things get out of hand and then they start to build narratives in their head with another coworker, like, oh God, this person, I hate working with them. I hate it, or I hate my boss. And I think getting really clear is the next step on what are you actually mad about. Are you mad at them? You just don't like them as a person, which personality conflict is 49% of conflict at
Right.
work, which is fine. But are you going to be able to give them feedback, or is this something you need to let go? Is this your own
Mhm.
bias, or is this something where you can say specifically a behavior that they do you can change? Because that's like probably one of the bigger things I coach to. It's we can give feedback on behaviors. Behaviors
Right.
you could change. And if it's really good feedback, people should want to hear it.
Hmm.
but setting people up to receive it is honestly 75% of the battle. But if you just don't like somebody because you don't like them,
Right.
you got to get over it. It's we're
That's a
not
you
going to like all of
problem.
our yes. Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
but
And identifying whether or not it's a you problem or it's okay, this is a potentially, they're triggering you, or
yeah.
and that's, that's self-awareness as well.
Yes. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, we all come with our own stuff going on. We've all had lives. We all have different experiences, but that's what makes us human, and that's what makes our perspectives valuable. So, the first way I like to open up all of my client engagements is like all of my knowledge starts and stops in this little noggin right here. So, I will own my expertise and I know that I have a lot to earn. So, or a lot to earn. I apologize, a lot to learn. And it's
Yep.
setting the tone where it's we're going to learn a lot today, but also you have expertise that you should be owning as well in those conversations.
This is not, I mean, this is all amazing, but this is not, it's not new to, these are basic foundations that every business needs.
Hmm.
But there are certain industries that I believe should have standard mental health checks. Like, hey, you work in a highly emotional driven industry, like nursing, um, firefighters, police officers. Like, typically when they're being engaged, there are very heightened emotions involved. When somebody gets
Hmm.
pulled over, they may not be extremely, upset or whatever, but often they're like, oh man. When a police officer is getting called to certain situations, there are extremely heightened emotions involved. When you're working in an ER, when you're working in, you know, I mean, I don't know that there's any medical situation where somebody is not slightly, heightened. I don't like going to the doctor. I mean, yes, I do and I don't. Like, I, it's just not something that I would check on my box of, oh, yes, I can't wait to go to the doctor. Like, you know, you just always hope that when you walk out that they're either like, yep, status quo or great news. You
Hmm.
never want it to be on the other end of, ooh, so something is not right in your blood work, or hey, we found. So, there's just certain industries where it's like, maybe we should have like a standard mental health check, or somebody like you, a facilitator who's coming in and saying, okay, guys, let's work on our communication. Let's work. Do you have somebody that you work with that when you have a really bad day or you're having one that you can go over to him and go, man, today is rough. Like I need an extra 10 minutes to go collect myself. And that person is gonna go, yeah, I understand. I get it. But there's not a lot of that. You're starting to see this in certain industries where they're accepting of mental health awareness, and they're like, oh, okay, so, but we're not just talking about mental health. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just the stressors of real day-to-day life.
Hmm.
And it now we're actually having those conversations, but up until a couple of years ago, it wasn't really even a conversation that people were having. Like, I don't want to hear, hey, leave your emotions at the door, come in here and do your job. Oh, okay, great. That's not a real thing anymore. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We're not robots. And emotions are messy.
Hmm.
Like
They're
real
human.
life. Right, right,
They're human.
right. And you would think that nursing and the healthcare industry would have been leading the way for this type of thing, for what you're doing. But it doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case.
There are a lot of programs out there. There are nursing support groups. There are online learning, education, therapeutic communication. That's part of nursing program curriculum. It was for me when I went to school forever ago. But what I think is lacking is that ongoing education piece where it's a peer to say, I get it. Work can be real cruddy sometimes. It just is. But it's not yours to bear alone. Let's figure out how we can reduce that stress moving forward because I don't want you leaving the profession because we need you. That, if I would have had people tell me that directly from a boss or a superior, I would have stayed in some jobs a lot longer. But
So,
that human connection, that bare minimum is just not there sometimes. And I think it's very multifactorial, but leaders are stressed. They don't have time to invest in their own education. Charge nurses are sometimes having full assignments. They are running the floor at the same time, and our peers are drowning in their own stuff going on too. So it's
and
not built
what
in.
why is that? Is that because of the lack of people going into the industry?
It's hard to say. It's multifactorial. I know that there are a lot of people graduating nursing school. There's a lot of talk about a nursing shortage. I think what we're seeing more now, and I'm curious to see how the trend continues with AI and the new technology that's happening, and people are leaving nursing a few years into their careers. They're not staying. It's and then nurse managers, it's the same. They very rarely stay in their job for more than 3 to 5 years. They leave. It's very stressful. So I don't know if it's a resource allocation or a skills deficit. It's
Interesting.
hard to say like which one it is, and I think it really depends on the organization as well. So I don't want to like give a blanket cover statement.
No, 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 and that's fair. That's absolutely fair because, and we've heard about, the shortages, and if you have shortages, you have to allocate the work to somebody, which only makes it worse.
Hmm.
So, offering more resources to help with the stress, having the conversations. So before I go down that rabbit hole, because we're gonna run short on time, because I mean I could talk about this forever. So when you are out there doing, speak, and when you're out there, get a little bit more into the nuts, you know, the nuts and bolts of that, and ultimately, what are people walking away with?
Mm. A big thing that I would say differentiates me from other speakers and what people walk away with is a newfound motivation to navigate conflict. For example, I just did a workshop last week and it was called the Leadership Lab. And the first part of it is just all about conflict with confidence. I partnered with a really wonderful marketing expert. And one of the women that came said she still refers to the framework that I taught last year, like in November. And she came up to me after the workshop and she was like, I'm excited to get in a fight now because I feel like I finally know what a good conversation should look like. And by working in the ER and dealing with people who are so heightened, I bring them into the stories. And I know that everybody has stories. Like my story is not unique of me hiding in a closet crying, me physically running away from conflict. I know most new grad nurses either feel this way or they've actually done the same thing. So it's that relatability that people see in me, which is so important for speakers. Like I will be so vulnerable on stage if it helps more people feel connected to my stories and connected to the plan that I'm sharing. People walk away knowing that conflict really has conflict resolution. These conversations have like three big steps. You got to figure out what the problem is and who you have to talk to. And so that's when you're identifying it. Then you're going into the collaborative conversation and then you're walking away with a plan. Every conversation should be some sort of we're walking away with a plan, whether it's we both messed up, let's drop it, you messed up, let's own it, I messed up, I'll own it, or we're escalating it to HR. And if you realize this isn't even your conversation to have, are you just going straight to your manager or HR? So people are walking away with a concrete framework, but then also an understanding that their voice is really powerful. There's hierarchies in the hospital where it's doctors, managers, admin. The nurse's voice is powerful.
Hmm.
Everybody's voice is powerful. I don't care what your role is. It's never a bad idea to speak up for yourself and advocate for patients because when we have that communication that's open, it's best for patients. That's what it comes down for. That's why we're there.
Right.
And People walk away every single time with a concrete framework and they know how to set up a conversation to de-escalate that tension within 30 seconds.
And I everything that you're saying is absolutely awesome because it really you're talking about the base of not just nursing, not just in the framework of a hospital, the base of any conversation, really. You walk in understanding, listening, digesting what that person is saying to you, and understanding that there should be there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There should never be a, oh wait, you're leaving mid conversation and there's no there's and I bring this back to sales. Obviously, this is a right in
Yeah.
every conversation. And I see salespeople as soon as the conversation gets uncomfortable, they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna find a way to back out of this, and that's where the sale gets lost
Mm.
because all of a sudden, or it's starting to get to a point where they're like, mm, this person is asking me questions or saying things that are not positive about what I have to offer them, or they're pushing back too much. And we're talking about, not necessarily conflict, but more of a um, just just pushback in any way.
Hmm.
That's when a lot of people start going, oh, I'm not feeling the warm and fuzzy, and that's when they run, right? And people have to understand that not every conversation that you have, somebody's going to go, "Yep, I agree. Yep,
Yeah.
I agree," and that's healthy. It's
Yes.
healthy. If every
Yes.
if every single
Yes.
like if I just literally said, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and everybody just went, "Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, okay, great." I'd be like, "This is so boring."
I wouldn't want to work on that team. Like nothing would
No.
get done. There would be no innovation. It would be so boring.
We would stay stagnant.
Yes.
Status quo would just, it would never, ever, nothing. I want a team. I want people to challenge me
Yes.
all the time. Challenge me because I don't get smarter if there's no challenge.
Mhm.
My clients don't make me more intelligent. My coworkers, well, my coworkers technically are my cat and my dog right now, but
The best.
right. But you know what I mean. People, my colleagues, there has to be pushback in some way or another. And if that means conflict, fine. Lean into it to try to understand their positioning. And this comes in sales conversations all the time. Understand. And once you lean into that, you're going to be able to hopefully, if you're open minded enough and solid in who you are,
Hmm.
and understand and willing to take constructive criticism. You have to be open to that. And a lot of people struggle with that in
Hmm.
my in my opinion. A lot of the, you know, if we better and people are like, "No, I like the way that I do it." Yeah, I get that. But hear me out for a second. And that's what I love. Like, "Oh, you mean that there's an easier way to do this?" That could take me 5 minutes instead of 20? Tell me. That's the healthy, that is absolutely the, and so I applaud people who are willing to call me out and say, "Hey, let's have this." Like, so
Hmm.
it's true for any conversation. And but you're right. People, and it's funny because as children, it's our natural curiosity to challenge our parents. For most kids, they grow up going, "Yeah, mommy told me to do this, but I don't know if I want to do that right now."
Yeah, it's true.
And then for some reason, we grow up and we stop doing that. Like
Hmm.
we start to fall in line, and all of a sudden we run from what we were born to naturally do, which is question, have
Mm-hmm.
the curiosity, have the pushback of, wait, you told me to brush my teeth? I'm going to go stare in the mirror and do my hair for 20 minutes. It's like, wait, what are you doing? I don't want to do that. Well, wait. You can tell that I have a child. And I bring that out a lot. I go back to children a lot because we are born with a lot of these natural things that later in life we have to relearn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that point. It's so true. And I have a lot of speaking mentors as part of National Speakers Association, and one of them said earlier this week, I want you to bring that energy that a 6-year-old has. You ask a 6-year-old what they want to do, what they want to be when they grow up, and they're like, I want to be an astronaut and a baker. And everybody's like, heck yeah, you go, little Adriana. But now people look at us like we're crazy. But why
mhm,
can't we have that same level of confidence and question things?
right.
And I think to also to your point, to like reframe it for sales and in these conflict situations, I have trained myself because my natural disposition is always to avoid things. Like I know that about myself. I feel that, but now I've relearned it enough where I'm like, nope, this is a good thing. And I tell myself in my head, this person cares enough to show up passionately. Let's hear them out. But I literally say that to myself in my head when someone is showing up in a way that's very passionate. And I'm just like, good for this person. Let's figure out what are they really trying to say? Because they care a lot about it. I want to know what's happening. I might be wrong. Or this might be our chance to develop a better shared understanding. So in sales, it's why am I getting pushback on this price? Like, do they like what's the behind that? Do they really not have the money for it? Or do they not think they're worthy of buying the coaching or the consulting? Or like what is it? What's the real reason? And just having a conversation and approaching it curiously is going to get you so much further in any human relationship than just shutting down and being like, this is awkward, gotta go by.
Yep. Right. Right. And and we never would have done that when we were a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old.
Hmm.
We would have continued to be like, well, why? Why? Tell me why.
Yes.
Why?
Relentless.
Relentlessly until somebody was
Yes.
like, okay, just stop. Okay, fine. I'll buy it for you or I'll buy it
Yeah.
from you.
Yes. Yes. If we ever want to learn sales, just hang out with a 6-year-old. Like, just do it.
Hey, you want to hang out with my 7-year-old because man, she wears you down. But it's true. That we as and obviously it's natural. You're supposed to grow up, you're supposed to learn more, and I think that sometimes our knowledge of things start to scare us and damper that a little bit because then you
Yeah.
learn. But so we are coming to time, and this has been an amazing conversation. And I absolutely, I love your approach. You do get a 30-second shameless pitch, so go at it.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, kudos to Leighann. Thank you for your time and thank you for having me and for your just awesome questions. And if you've made it this far in this episode, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Adriana Munoz. And if you have any questions about conflict, please reach out. I love to chat all things conflict because I think life gets less stressful when we know how to bridge those communications over our differences. I do advertise to healthcare only because I'm a nurse, and I figure if my communication can work in an ER, it could work in any industry. So reach out. I would love to meet you. This is my life's work right here, and thank you so much for having me and giving me a gracious platform to just chat your ear off about it, Leighann.
It's been awesome. Thank you so very much. And your LinkedIn profile, your website will be in the show notes. So if you do want to check out or reach out to Adriana, that will be there for you to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This podcast is presented by Accelerate Growth 45, your one-stop shop for business growth. Stop running your business like an operator, delaying wealth creation, and sacrificing your time. Instead, focus on building a valuable business asset, creating lasting wealth, and reclaiming the time you deserve. Accelerate your growth today and visit us at accelerategrowth45.com.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, Connect with Leighann on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leighann can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.